Hello there, my name is Jazza, and I treat modern day politics with the contempt that it deserves. Yes, I am just another white man on the internet with an opinion, but let's be honest, I'm your favourite. My friend, I have a little bit of a predicament. As somebody who voted for the first time in a general election in 2010, I've never really gotten over my hero worship of Nick Clegg. Sorry, did I say Nick Clegg? I meant Sir Nicholas. Oh, look at him, he's so multi-millionaire and dreamy. In his subtly titled book, How to Stop Brexit, open brackets, and Make Britain Great Again, close brackets, Sir Cleggy makes a pretty outrageous and bold suggestion. Despite the fact that he was leader of the Liberal Democrats, who have become the Remain and anti-Brexit parties, sorry, Change UK never really took off, he suggested that if you wanted to make real change, then you needed to influence and therefore join the two major parties in the United Kingdom, that being the Conservatives and Labour. But Jazza, I hear you cry. Firstly, bit weird that you want to join a political party. That ain't normal. Secondly, if you are going to join, shouldn't you join a party that you actually agree with? This is a fair point, but you see, members of parties end up changing their opinions all of the time. Most recently, we saw this with the Labour Party, the main party of the opposition, who started off with a pretty ambiguous stance on Brexit, and now have pretty much aligned themselves with being the main party. It's amazing how this huge surge in membership has been able to do that. And why not do that for the Conservatives, eh? So with that blind optimism in mind, around the second time that Theresa May tried to pass her Brexit bill through Parliament, I could smell blood. I thought that there would be a leadership election somewhere close in the future. And fast forward to 9 months later, I've already paid my £25 yearly membership fee, and I've got a ballot paper that means that I am allowed to vote for the next Prime Minister. That got out of hand very quickly, didn't it? Now, I have been mentioning quite publicly, again and again, that I am an infiltrating Romaniac into the Conservative Party in order to try and get kicked out, so that I don't have this responsibility of having to vote for either Jeremy Hunt or Boris Johnson. But this opportunity and this responsibility has been laid at my doorstep. There are a couple of quite large problems with this, though. Jeremy Hunt and Boris Johnson actually have a fair few differences between them. They have pretty distinct views on how we should deal with the NHS's social care crisis, how we should deal with immigration, taxation, and housing shortages. But as the Ramona-in-Chief, I only really care about one thing. Hunt's first port of call when he comes into number 10 is to try and renegotiate the deal Theresa May had failed to get through Parliament, and which the EU have said is not up for a rehash. I'm sure that will go fine. Hunt has the most problems with the backstop, which essentially has the potential to keep Northern Ireland in a customs arrangement with the EU, while the rest of the UK leaves, because of the impracticality of a land border between the North and the Republic of Ireland. Realistically, Hunt only has a few working days in Parliament between taking office and the October 31st deadline because of Parliament's summer recess, followed by party conference season. Yes, those really are things that Parliament are still going to go through with. A meaningful negotiation is unlikely in the timeframe available. Therefore, he has said that he would start planning to leave the European Union with no deal a month before the deadline if a renegotiation doesn't seem plausible. Absolutely fine. Boris Johnson, on the other hand, sees the Halloween deadline as the last immovable point. He also wants to renegotiate Theresa May's deal. Again, this is unlikely to be accepted by the EU, but he has entertained the idea of a no-deal Brexit a lot more than Hunt. He believes he can maintain no tariffs between the UK and the EU by using something called GATT, a piece of World Trade Organization legislation that pretty much no one had ever heard of until very recently. He has had a lovely time recounting the specific part of the agreement that suits him, Article 24, paragraph 5b, but in an interview with Andrew Neil, Johnson was quite deliciously caught out.
You talk about Article 5b. in
Paragraph
GAT
5.
24.
Article 24. Get the
It's
detail
Article
right.
5,
Get the
yeah.
detail right, Andrew. It's Article 24, paragraph 5b.
And how would you handle paragraph 5c?
I would confide entirely in paragraph 5b, because that is...
So how would you get round what's in 5c?
I would confide entirely in paragraph 5b, which is
Do you know what's
enough
in
for our
5C?
purposes. No.
I thought you were a man of detail.
Well, you didn't know whether it was an article or a paragraph, but
Well,
there's
that's
enough,
not the detail
there's
you
enough,
told
there's
us.
enough,
Tory has
there's enough in paragraph 5b to get us
No,
an agreement that we
5c
want.
says you don't just need the EU's approval. You need to agree with the EU the shape of a future
Yes.
trade agreement and a timetable.
Johnson has also been flirting with the idea of proroguing Parliament, which essentially suspends it, not allowing members to do their jobs for a period of time. There have been a number of Johnsonites, if that's what we're calling them, suggesting that this is a perfectly normal thing to think about doing. It isn't. It's blooming nuts. Not least because it requires the permission of the Queen, who is well known to not like doing much more with her power than just wearing the nice hats and silly outfits. Despite these differences, the problem is both of the candidates to be the next leader of the Conservative Party are happy to entertain the idea of leaving the European Union with no deal. This not only has huge implications and consequences for trade and the businesses and jobs that rely on imports and exports, but one of the biggest issues, as I said before, is how the land border between Northern Ireland and the Republic is resolved. To be clear, neither Hunt or Johnson have made it clear how they would deal with the land border beyond seeking alternative arrangements, which frankly is the political equivalent of my dog ate my homework. Now I'm a Lib Dem through and through, cut me and I bleed Paddy Ashdown, frankly. So there is kind of like an immoral part of me being an insurgent member of the Conservative Party. So I spoke with my dad, who also voted to remain, but who used to be a Conservative councillor, is no longer a member of the Conservative Party at the moment. And so I thought, maybe this is an opportunity, maybe he can essentially vote by proxy through me. I'll vote for who he wants me to. This was his feedback. Right, Dad, why do you think I should vote for Boris Johnson?
Because he's the one most likely to make a pig's ear of it first and get the sack.
Yeah, so he'll be around for the shortest amount of time.
Exactly that.
Great.
They're both an absolute nightmare. So you don't want either of them around very long. So Boris is more likely to get the boot first.
Why you don't work in politics, Dad? No idea. So after trying to offload my responsibility to my dad and genuinely trying to kind of see if there was anybody who I'd be happy voting for in this Conservative Party election for the next Prime Minister, I've come to the conclusion I would not feel okay having endorsed either of these candidates. And when that happens, in order for your vote to still be counted, you spoil your ballot. So I'm going to go away and spoil this ballot. Here's what it ended up looking like. I'm sure it was very creative. And send it back to them so that my vote and my discontent as a Conservative Party member gets counted. But so that I don't have to feel guilty for when the country goes to shit because of hard deal Brexit. Or no deal Brexit. All of these terminologies are very confusing. So I have managed to absolve myself of any responsibility of actually having to vote for anyone. But if you were in my situation and you actually had a vote in deciding who our next Prime Minister is going to be, would you have voted for Jeremy Hunt or Boris Johnson? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy treating modern day politics with as much contempt as I do, then subscribe to this channel. It is a good thing to do, because then you get more of me, but on a sporadic schedule. And you can also check out my podcast, where I talk with my friend who voted to leave the European Union, and we can somehow still be friends. It's actually very good. It's probably one of the best things that I do. Okay, goodbye now. Thank you. Toodaloo.